Wait, why is it vegetable?
So, what is an compound?
Well, I know more than one. More than one. More than one element.
So it's more than one element bonded together.
Yeah, like salt.
One type of element. Chemically bonded together. A compound has no charge. It's neutral. Or, in other words, the sum of charges inside of it add to zero. Meaning they cancel each other out. So, for example, iron, 3 oxide. The iron is plus 3. The oxygen is negative 2. There are 2 of these. There are 3 of those. So the total charge here is 2 times plus 3, so that's plus 6. Total charge here is 3 times negative 2. What is minus 6? What is 6 minus 6? 0. So the whole charge of this molecule is 0. What is an ion?
Ooh, it's something that has a positive.
Not, does it have to be positive? It's a molecule or single element that has a charge.
Oh, I thought the iron was positive charge.
So an anion, which I sometimes mispronounce as ion, or I say it too quickly. That sounds like ion or ion. I say like anion really quickly. Anion is a negatively charged ion, and a cation is a positively charged ion. Anion versus ion. I probably mispronounced it on occasion. So NaCl. What is the cation and what is the anion? And what is the compound? The cation is Na plus. Remember, ions have charges, and you can put the plus 1. So what's the anion? Yes. So the anion is Cl negative 1. Cation is Na plus 1. So the cation is sodium. And the anion is chloride. Chloride is the anion of chlorine. Sodium is ambiguous. It could be the atom sodium. We would say this Na is elemental sodium, meaning that it's just a sodium atom by itself. Where we'd say this is a sodium ion. But unless and so sodium by itself is somewhat ambiguous. It can sometimes refer to both. What is an ionic bond?
I'm gonna bond the ionic. When two ions bond together.
So I've been saying the word ionic versus not ionic. I'll go ahead and tell you what not ionic is. It's called covalent.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Covalent means not ionic. And it doesn't really. It means, what does the word co mean? If you're codependent.
I mean, if I'm getting co-op, I mean, I'm getting
What does the word co mean?
two.
So, together with. You can have co-op with more than one person, right? So, what does the word valent mean? Valence electrons. So, that means if the valence electrons are co, they're together. So, covalent bond means the electrons are shared. The valence electrons are shared. Are shared between the atoms. Now, ionic bond is when one atom or one ion or one atom completely gives up its valence electrons to another atom. So not ionic is when something is shared. So not ionic is when the electrons are shared. That's known as covalent bonding. So for an ionic bond, so for example, sodium has one valence electron. Fluorine has 7. So it's missing one right there. Whenever they bond together, you'll see that sodium has given up its valence electrons to fluorine, and fluorine has gave them, making sodium positive and fluorine negative. And because they are positive and negative, they attract to each other. There's a force pulling them together. How can you tell if a bond is ionic? John, hoodie off and head up.
It has a positive charge. Neutral charge. A charging.
So is this ionic?
Yes. No. It's neutral.
How can you tell me with 100% certainty that this is ionic?
I mean, it has got a charge. L's got a charge.
You look at electronegativity.
I don't know what that is.
You've done this before. These numbers. So sodium has an electronegativity of 0.9, and chlorine has an electronegativity of 3.0. And then you do the difference between them. So that's 3.0 minus 0.9, and that's equal to 2.1. If this number is greater than 1.7, it's ionic. So this is a greater than 1.7, so it's ionic. Ionic compounds usually have metals, have a metal bonded with a non-metal. Not always, but usually. If you see something in group 1 bonded with something in group 7A, that's guaranteed to be a ionic compound because the electronegativity is really big. Likewise, if you see something over here bonded with something over here, it's usually going to be ionic. Not always, but most of the time. Electronegativity abbreviated as En is how strongly an atom pulls on electrons. Trying to think. Look at this apple. So imagine you had some 12-year-old kid. And then you had The Rock. So some 12-year-old kid. Now then, they have an electron. So he has his electron, he has his. The Rock can pull very, very strongly on electrons. He has a high En value. The kid can barely hold on to his own electron. So he has a very low En. Now then, they're going to play a little tug of war. Do you think they'll share? Or do you think the Rock will win? He really wants the electrons.
Oh, that kid would be out of it.
So if you have a low En and a high En, the difference is very big. What's going to end up happening is the person who has a stronger pull on electrons is going to win. And what's going to happen is the Rock is going to end up with 2 electrons. Now imagine you had 2 equally sized and strong little 12-year-old kids. Make them 8-year-old then. They have a rope, and they're both pulling on it. What do you think? Who do you think would win? These are 2 equally strong kids. They're both. Yeah, you'd see them sit there, pull. So you'd see occasionally one kid might get the ropes closer to them, and other kids no and pull him back. It would be about the same. And what would you say about who would y'all say is equally strong as the Rock?
Me.
That's what I was thinking. John Cena. They're both pulling on it, and let's say that they're both work to the same strength. Even though they're both super strong, if they have the same strength, no one will be able to pull more than the other.
But you can't see John Cena. It's just one by.
Okay, what?
Those office like I go sitting up and my neck felt like. Normally,
Let's see.
Dude, John Cena could be it.
So, is H2O ionic or covalent?
Well, hydrogen and oxygen is above 1.7.
Yeah. So hydrogen is 2.1 roughly, and oxygen is about 3.5. So the difference is 1.4, so it would be not ionic.
Is it an exception?
It's a gray area. So it would be literally like me doing this. You can only say what black or white. So, where would you draw the line between these colors being black and white?
Nowhere.
That's what I'm saying. If you had to classify something as being white and something as being black,
They're gray.
that's what I'm saying. That's what my point was. Is the difference between ionic and covalent is a gray, muddy area. Or I should say between light and dark. At which point would you say something is light versus dark?
You can't see that in the air.
If you turn out all the lights, you can't see anyone.
Henry's scared. I went to Coach Little and turned off the light to Henry. He was across the room. He was so like, I'm not being racist, but he was dark skinned. And someone turned the lights off. You hear like a little bitty move. They turned the lights up when he was right behind them.
One time Angelique got up under my desk and she was busy. I just see her eyeballs and I got scared. I'm serious.
So,
That was.
what are some properties of ionic compounds? Compounds do not have a charge.
Yeah, Thomas. They're neutral.
They're usually solid at room
There
temperature.
has to be an exception about that. Unless you're mercury. Could there be a charged compound?
No, then it would be an ion.
Yeah, Thomas. But there is no exception.
That would be like saying, can you have a round square?
No.
That's called a circle. Your question, can a compound have a charge, is the same thing as can you have a circular square?
If
If the square is a circle, it's no longer a square, it's a circle. If a compound has a charge, it's no longer a compound, it's an ion. They form salt. Compounds are often called salt. You could have table salt. You could have potassium chloride, which is a salt substitute.
I like salt.
They have high melting point.
Radon,
Why is their melting point so high?
because of salt. They dissolve.
So, because this chemical is so positive and this one's so negative, the forces holding them together is very strong. So the forces between them. When put in the water, allows water to conduct electricity. What do you call that?
Dissolving.
An electrolyte.
If you put it in something.
This, to dissolve in water to conduct electricity, is called an electrolyte. Yes.
About dissolving. How long is it going to take until those thingies finish drying out?
They are already dry. I just need to bring the block bags and figure out who I'm going to give it to.
The ones who made a high school mistake.
Yeah, that's what I just need to look at.
Me and Rich. You know what you're supposed to do. I'm making 70 something that said last night. What you make?
Look right Johnson.
What you make?
Uh, did everyone finish their homework? Y'all need to have it into me today?
I think it was,
No.
Mr. West, was it about testing code?
Versus solubility.
Yeah.
How about, can I know that?
Can I have code?
You would have had it in your report card.
All John's fault.
We haven't had any grades since the report card.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm a little now, she's doing this. Yeah, I look, I was, you know,
Does everyone have cell phones?
Yes, sir.
No.
Everyone?
Yeah.
But mine it turned on.
Let's do Kahoot. So I can use y'all's cell phones.
You know, I don't get
And grab a computer.
I don't have my phone anymore. I'm back
Wait,
now.
what do you mean?
Kahoot.
Oh, bet.
I can download it on my phone.
So do I.
I'm the only one that does it. I'm like, make a computer because I don't have it downloaded.
You can just use the website.
Yeah, you can use Google.
I'm good ashamed.
Yeah.
All y'all over here can use my phone is in the that is my choice. That's good. John, how much fun on
Dude, JP finally came back, I'm gonna take a real quick.
Yep.
Why do you click it in, bro? Right there. The effect. Releases. I'm just kidding. He stood up with so much force that the gravity of
Y'all might need y'all's note sheet I gave out yesterday.
you.
Yes, you can use your phones.
Okay, I'm in.
So do y'all have y'all's little note sheet I gave out yesterday?
Yeah, sure.
And the periodic table?
Got a periodic table and
Periodic table, and all that.
I don't get it. I burnt mine last night.
Wait. The only thing I burned last night was the front.
At least I had fries and get good.
Okay, fair enough.
It was daddy dropped it.
Huh?
Mr. West, I will have to report some inappropriate what John put on there. How was that inappropriate? Daddy John. Well, I don't have a dad, so I might as well be my own. Because you can't see me.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's exactly what I just said.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
It won't miss it. Man, Wi-Fi is talking as well. Why he has to use your phone? Bro, you bum, my phone wouldn't get paid. We gotta get a job with your brother. I've tried. Why don't you just work with him? Yo, Mr. West, stay strapped. Mr. West, stay strapped. Mr. West, like school shooter? No problem. He goes all that good out of 8th period on him. I just like go with that.
Cool, should be the black in the background.
Who logged off?
I'm
I'm still getting it. Three weeks of school left. The next 2 weeks are gonna be straight start testing. And then the last week when I have
Y'all will join later. We only got 20 minutes left.
Alright.
So we're not doing it?
Well, no. Are y'all almost done?
No.
Alright.
Here, I'll log code you. I'll do it, John. With him. What about? I'll do it, John. I'll do it.
Alright. What is true about binary ion compounds?
Oh, I'm in. Game plan.
I don't know.
The key word is binary.
Good, John.
So binary ionic compounds consist of only 2 types of elements. They consist of atoms of only 2 elements. Don't be confused with the one that says exactly 2 atoms. You can have more than 1 atom, but only 5, 8, 7, 3, 0, 4, 7.
Yeah, I'm in that. I'm in that, bud.
Everyone good? Which is the correct formula for the combination of beryllium and nitrogen?
Dude, your boy finally got in there.
So, beryllium has a +2 charge. Nitrogen has a -3. So, the 3 is going to come when you crisscross to the beryllium. And the 2 is going to come over to the nitrogen. What is the correct formula for manganese 3 fluoride?
Okay. Negative.
You don't even really need a periodic table if you have fluoride memorized.
I don't know.
So manganese 3 has a +3 charge. That's what this means. Fluoride has a -1. So that means we need 3 -1 charges to get rid of this +3 charge here. So we need 3 fluorines to get rid of the manganese. What is the correct name for FeS? So Fe can either be Fe2 or so this could either be iron 2 or iron 3. This has multiple charges, so we have to include Roman numerals. Sulfur is a -2. To counteract that -2, Fe must be +2. So we would name this iron 2, and sulfur becomes sulfide.
Does anybody know so much? It's just shades on.
Which is the current name of compound Na3P? And take your glasses off.
Nitrogen 3 pineapple. That was so bright in here. It's because I'm like the ray of sunshine.
So when naming a binary, meaning 2 elements, we name the cation, sodium, and we change whatever element, so this is the element phosphorus, we put ID in it, so it becomes phosphide.
I'm in 8th grade.
So this would be sodium phosphide. Sodium is in group 1. Group 1 elements all have +1, so there is no special naming with them. Which is the correct name for the compound? Right here.
Dude, did you know this? Dude, boy, please. I already know it. Might click the right one. God damn.
So, you can just look at all these answers and tell they're wrong. Except for one. This one has Roman numerals.
Well, you just said we're supposed to be using Roman numerals.
Roman numerals are only for like the transition elements that have more than one charge.
So you want to use the transition metals?
Yeah, and a few of the group 3 and group 4 elements.
That's why I decided that
Hydro. Where's the hydro on the sulfate? There's no hydrogen on the sulfate. And hydrogen sulfate, again, there's no hydrogen on here. Obviously, this is ammonium, and this is sulfate. What is the formula for the compound formed by calcium ions and chloride ions?
Get it wrong. I think I actually got this one right. What?
So chlorine is -1, calcium is +2. To get rid of that +2, you need 2 -1 charges. So you need 2 chlorides. So it's CaCl2.
John, you're in ninth place now.
What is the formula for the compound formed by lead 2 ions and chromate?
Alright, dude, I'm sending it.
I don't know.
Oh my god, I got
You
it.
might get one with
8 tells you this is an oxyion.
I don't know, oxyion on it. Oxyalcohol, maybe.
I got it wrong with it. I thought it was bad. I got it wrong.
So chromate has a -2 charge. Lead 2 has a +2. So +2 and -2 cancel each other out. So I need just one lead 2 and one chromate. So here's your one lead and here's your one chromate.
8 at the end, and both of them in parentheses.
Unless there's a 1. If there's 1, you don't ever put parentheses in the number 1.
I'm gonna start like taking my time now. Dude, yeah.
Name the following compound. Nickel does have more than one charge, so you have to use Roman numerals with it.
Give me a minute.
Look at all the answer choices.
Well, they chose for me. I got the
Yeah, I didn't mean to put that
Go.
on. I'm choosing.
So, chlorate has a -1 charge, and there's 2 of them. So that means this whole side right here has -2. That means nickel must be +2. But they all had nickel 2 as an answer. Well, we know this has oxygen with it, so it's going to be an oxyion. Oxyions end in ate, ite, or have a per in front of it. But this one is IDE. We know it's not this one. What's in red has to be wrong. It ends in IDE. This one, peroxide. Well, we know that's wrong right there. We have IDE. IDE is not oxyions. So now we have to decide if it's ite versus 8. You look at your table, and if it's on the table, it's the 8 version. The 8 version is on the table. We have 3 oxygens for the 8 version, 2 oxygens for the ite version. Name the compound.
Oh,
So, looking at your oxyion table, you'll find that this is nitrate, and nitrate has a -1 charge. -1 charge, but we have 2 of them right here. It tells us we have 2 -1 charges. So this whole thing right here is -2. That means iron must be +2. So we need to write, in parentheses, 2 next to it. And that's because iron can either be iron 2 or iron 3. And this is nitrate, not nitrite. So we see it's iron 2 nitrate. Name the following.
I think it's on Facebook. Anybody can?
Aluminum is always has 1 charge.
every single time
So aluminum only has 1 charge.
I chose the wrong one. I chose me too.
I got one right!
I said, I was like, oh, John, you up here.
Oh, so first of all, aluminum 2 is most definitely wrong. Aluminum produces +3 ions. Aluminum is in group 3.
And because sulfate is 8, right?
Yes. So it can't be blue because 8 tells you it's an oxy ion. 8 ending tells you there has to be oxygen with the sulfur. And we don't call it sulfur, we change the name to sulfide. So you can eliminate all the wrong choices and be left with aluminum sulfide.
Dude, literally, I'm in the last place.
Which of the following occurs in ionic bonds? Nothing confusing about it.
That one was rough and good.
So opposite charges attract each other. Now these ions or ionic charges or ionic bonds are not sharing electrons. They're completely giving them up. That'd be covalent or non-ionic. But oppositely charged ions attract. Which of the following pairs of elements is most likely to form an ionic compound?
I'm just gonna shoot best the rest of the game.
Dude, I was gonna be.
So remember, an ionic compound is mostly between a metal and a non-metal. Oxygen and chlorine are obviously two non-metals. Nitrogen and sulfur are two non-metals. And sodium and aluminum are two metals. Usually it's between a metal and a non-metal.
I was gonna go down to the and I was like, the time got to me.
What is the formula for sodium sulfate? So sodium has a +1 charge. Sulfate is SO4 -2. So it has a -2 charge. So we need 2 + 1 charges to counteract the -2 of sulfate. So it'd be Na2SO4.
Two times.
What is the name of an ionic compound formed between lithium and bromine? So the ending IUM, INE, and GEN, like an oxygen and hydrogen, are all elemental endings. The ending IDE is used for the ion of an element. So this would be elemental, while this would be ionic. And 8 is for the oxy ion. Which of the following compounds has the following formula?
Oh, I know this one. Like I know all those.
Don't look at my phone, guys.
So, you know, when you were walking.
I got so to get up like
We got like 5 seconds.
So NO3 is nitrate.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
guys, I think it's bad that I've only got 3 questions right and I'm in 5th place.
Dude, I'm in 6.
What is the charge that results in oxygen becoming an ion?
Dude, which is option? What's option number 3?
Oh, what you call? I really don't know. You're not gonna. Goodness. So you know the practice that we can't breathe in carbon dioxide?
Oh, I can't wait.
What if we breathe in carbon dioxide? Will we live in this?
-2. What charge would result when lithium becomes an ion?
Think of this one. I'm about 1st place. You can't beat me. Damn. My goal. Oh,
+1 is in group 1.
dude, hey! Am I supposed to
How do you
play?
know when to use Roman numerals?
Oh, I know this one. Boom. I knew this one. Off the top of my head. Yeah. Hold on, I want to see if I got it right.
This one's actually wrong regardless of what you put.
Hey.
This is not always the case, but usually the case.
You go one more, because I'm about to take 3rd place by storm, even though I only got like.
What is the correct formula for chromium 2 nitrate?
Charge that computer. It's full again. Watch it. It's blue. Blue.
Well, only one of them, oh, 2 of them have nitrate. And chromium
Pick one. Pick green.
is green.
Pick green. Let's go. I'm on the podium. And I got like 3 right. Hold on, I want to see how many I got right.
Ah, 7 out of 20. I still.
Game was rigged, but that's all right. It'll bring my table. Okay.